In the endless black, where stars whisper ancient secrets, there existed a small monitoring outpost called Sentinel Ridge. It floated like a forgotten lighthouse at the very edge of known human territory, where the mapped universe gave way to mystery. Here, 3 souls kept watch over the silence, listening to a cosmic symphony that most people would never hear. Lieutenant Amara Singh believed in purpose. Every single morning, she calibrated the quantum receivers with hands that never trembled, her dark eyes scanning readouts that would bore most people to tears. She had volunteered for this isolation, leaving behind a promising career on Earth just to sit at the edge of everything. Her colleagues called her obsessive. She called herself ready. Beside her workstation, technical specialist Dominic Torres hummed old Earth songs while running diagnostics on their deep space arrays. Where Amara was intensity personified, Dominic was easy laughter and quick smiles. He wore his uniform loose, kept photographs of his nieces taped to his console, and treated the void like an old friend. People thought he was too casual for deep space work, but they were wrong. Dominic could hear patterns and chaos that computers often missed. Their commanding officer, Captain Ria Okoro, preferred the observation deck, where she could see the stars without any filters. She was a woman of few words, but infinite patience. Her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun that hadn't changed style in 20 years. Before Sentinel Ridge, she had commanded warships. Now she commanded silence. She never explained why she had chosen this assignment, and nobody dared ask. For 18 long months, their routine had been unbroken. Cosmic radiation, pulsar echoes, the occasional meteor shower, painting brief streaks of fire across their sensors. Nothing that truly mattered. Nothing that changed the fundamental loneliness of their station. Until the night the universe screamed. Amara was deep into her 3rd cup of synthetic coffee when the quantum array exploded with activity. It wasn't the gentle ping of a distant supernova or the regular pulse of a neutron star. This was different. This was alive. Dom. Her voice cut through the station's perpetual hum. I need you here now. Dominic dropped his maintenance tablet and crossed the room in 3 long strides. His usual humor vanished as he saw the readouts. That's not natural. No, Amara confirmed, her fingers dancing across holographic controls, isolating the signal. It's a transmission, modulated, repeating. Someone is sending this. Captain Okoro appeared in the doorway, as if summoned by the urgency itself. She moved to stand between them, her eyes narrowing at the display. Origin point? 27 light-years out. Sector 449B, Dominic replied. That's beyond the treaty line, Captain. That's unexplored space. Not unexplored, Okoro corrected softly. Just unexplored by us. The signal pulsed again, stronger this time. The computer struggled to decode it, the pattern far too complex for simple translation. But embedded within the mathematical complexity was something that needed no translation at all. Images began forming on their main screen. Cities. Beautiful, soaring cities of silver and light. And then, fire, destruction, death, sweet mercy, Dominic whispered, his voice barely audible. That's a distress call. The images continued to flood their screens. A species they had never seen before, tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer like oil on water. The Veiler, their own data packets named them. They appeared to be a civilization of artists and dreamers who had reached for the stars with songs instead of weapons. Then came the attackers. Ships that looked like they had been grown rather than built. Vast crystalline structures the size of mountains, moving through space with a terrible silent purpose. The footage showed them descending on Veiler cities, their weapons turning entire districts into superheated glass. There was no demand for surrender, no attempt at communication, only annihilation. Run spectral analysis on those attacking vessels, Okoro commanded, her voice steady and firm. Amara's hands shook slightly as she compiled the data. Captain, the computer is flagging matches against theoretical models. These attackers, they're crystalline collective entities. We've had reports of them from deep space probes, but never this close to our territory. They consume other civilizations to expand their own consciousness. They don't conquer. They absorb. How long until they reach Vaylor's homeworld? Okoro's voice remained calm, cutting through the rising tension. Dominic paused, rechecking his math, his face grim. Based on their current trajectory, and a timestamp on this transmission, 72 hours. Maybe less. The observation deck fell silent, the only sound the soft beeping of monitors. Amara looked at the images still cycling on her screen. Children being evacuated from burning cities. A civilization that had done nothing wrong, except exist in the wrong place at the wrong time. "We have to report this," she said quietly. "Already compiling the data packet," Dominic confirmed. "Earth Defense Command will have it in 6 hours." Okoro stood motionless, her reflection a ghostly figure in the reinforced viewport. Beyond the glass, the stars glittered with an indifferent beauty. "Do you know why I took this assignment?" she asked suddenly, her voice low. Neither Amara nor Dominic answered. "I fought in the colony wars," she continued, her gaze fixed on the distant cosmos. "I saw humans at their worst, fighting each other over rocks in space. Afterward, I wanted quiet. I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, we had learned something." She turned to face them, her expression unreadable. "But I also wanted to be here, at the edge, just in case." "In case of what, Captain?" Amara asked. "In case someone needed us." The signal pulsed again, desperate and fading. Somewhere across an impossible distance, people were dying. An entire civilization was ending. And 3 humans on a tiny, forgotten station were the only ones who knew. Okoro walked decisively to the communications console. "Lieutenant Singh, send that data to Earth Defense Command. Mark it Priority Alpha. Then send it to Fleet Command. And the Science Council. And the Colonial Authority. Send it everywhere." "Captain?" Dominic looked confused. "Why everyone?" Okoro's eyes hardened with old memories. "Because when they debate whether to get involved, whether it's worth revealing ourselves to the galaxy, whether we should risk human lives for strangers, I want every single person in authority to see those images. I want them to see what happens when the strong devour the weak and nobody answers the call." Amara's fingers flew across her console. "Transmission sent across all channels, Captain. Earth will know in 6 hours." "Good." Okoro returned to the viewport, her watch now a vigil. "Now we wait." The signal continued its desperate broadcast, a cry echoing through the void. And on a small station at the edge of everything, 3 humans kept watch, knowing that what happened next would change the course of their species, and perhaps the galaxy forever. But behind them, unnoticed, another system hummed to life. Deep in the station's core, where the most sensitive equipment was housed, something else had heard the Vaylor signal. The Quantum Ansible, a device built for emergencies that were never supposed to happen, began broadcasting its own message. It wasn't sending to Earth Defense Command, which would debate and discuss and form committees. No, this message was going directly to the 4th Fleet shipyards orbiting Mars, where warriors were waiting. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more content from the edge of the universe. The war room beneath Geneva stretched 3 kilometers underground, a fortress where humanity's leaders gathered when the future hung in the balance. Today, the holographic display showed images no human ever wanted to see. A dying civilization, beautiful and helpless, broadcasting their final moments across the stars. General Takeshi Yamamoto stood with his arms crossed, his face lit by the flickering light of burning Vaylor cities. He'd spent 40 years in Earth's military, rising through the ranks during humanity's self-imposed isolation. His record was spotless, his reputation unshakable. His next words would carry a weight that could tip planets. We have confirmed the signal's authenticity, he stated, his voice calm. The Valar Confederation spans 17 systems. Population, approximately 14 billion. They possess advanced technology in energy manipulation and quantum communications, but their defensive capabilities are negligible. Across the table, Counselor HFY leaned forward, her augmented neural implants glowing faintly. She represented Earth's enhanced populations, those who had chosen to become something more than human. The Crystalline Collective, she said, pulling up more data. We've been tracking them for 6 years. They aren't invaders in the traditional sense. They are a Gestalt intelligence that grows by incorporating other consciousnesses into their network. The Valar are not being destroyed. They are being harvested. That's supposed to make us feel better? Growled Admiral Rashid Al-Aziz, commander of the 3rd Defense Fleet. Harvested, murdered. What's the difference when they're all dead? The difference, Esh replied coolly, is that we need to understand what we're facing. The collective operates through quantum entanglement. Their ships are grown from silicon-based life forms. Our weapons were designed for flesh and metal. We have no combat data on how they will perform against crystalline structures. General Yamamoto gestured, and the display shifted to show schematics of human warships. We have run simulations. The 4th Fleet, currently at Mars, consists of 280 vessels. If we deploy immediately, we can reach Valar space in 96 hours. 4 days, whispered Dr. Kieran O'Coy, head of the Xenobiology Division. His hands trembled slightly. The Valar transmission indicated the collective would reach their homeworld in 72 hours. We would arrive too late, but not too late to make a difference, Yamamoto countered. Our projections show we could evacuate significant portions of their population. We could establish defensive positions and buy them time. Chancellor Dmitry Volkov, the nominal head of the World Council, finally spoke. At what cost? We reveal ourselves to the galaxy not as peaceful explorers, but as warriors. We abandon a century of isolation. And for what? A species we have never met, who didn't even send their distress call to us. The room erupted into argument, voices overlapping in chaos. The holographic displays flickered with data streams. No one was watching anymore. A single sound cut through the noise. Not a shout, but something quieter and infinitely more commanding. Enough. Fleet Admiral Helena Ruiz had been silent until now. She was ancient by modern standards, over 130 years old, kept alive by advanced biotechnology. She had commanded Earth's forces during the bloody colony wars and bore scars that even advanced medicine couldn't fully erase. She stood slowly, and every eye in the room turned to her. I have a question for this council, she said, her voice soft but clear. When we built our fleets, when we enhanced our soldiers, when we turned Earth into a fortress and ourselves into weapons, what did we tell ourselves we were preparing for? No one answered. We said we were making sure that humanity would never again be helpless, that we would never again be prey, that if the galaxy held threats, we would be ready. She walked to the display, placing her hand through the image of a burning Valar city. But here is the truth we have avoided. We didn't just make ourselves strong. We made ourselves into what we once feared. We became the predators. Admiral, that's not fair, Counselor Esh began, but Ruiz held up a hand. I'm not finished. Yes, we are predators now. The question is what kind? Do we hunt only when threatened, defending our territory, and nothing more? Or do we accept that with power comes a different kind of burden? She turned to face them all. The Valar did not call us. They do not know we exist. We could ignore this signal, maintain our isolation, and no one would ever know. We would be safe. But every person in this room would know. We would know that we heard their cry and chose silence. General Yamamoto stepped forward. The 4th Fleet can deploy in 6 hours. Admiral Jericho Park has been briefed. We have the capability. The question is simple. Do we have the will? Chancellor Volkov looked around the room. A vote, then. All in favor of deploying military forces to assist the Valor. Hands rose. First Admiral Ruiz, steady and sure. Then General Yamamoto. Counselor Esch hesitated for only a moment before her hand joined theirs. Admiral Aziz raised his with a grim smile. Dr. Okoye, his hand shaking, raised it high. One by one, hands rose until only Chancellor Volkov himself remained. The weight of history pressed down on the room. This single decision would end humanity's isolation forever. Volkov looked at the display, at the Valor cities burning. He thought of Earth's own history, of all the times when help had come too late or not at all. He raised his hand. Unanimous, he said quietly. Deploy the Fourth Fleet. May whatever gods remain forgive us if we are wrong. Admiral Ruiz moved to the communications console. Get me Admiral Park. Encrypt the transmission. The connection established in seconds. Admiral Jericho Park appeared on the screen, his eyes calm, his entire life a training exercise for a war he'd never fought. Behind him, through the viewport of his flagship, the Indomitable, the shipyards of Mars glowed with activity. Admiral Park, Ruiz said formally, you are hereby authorized to deploy the Fourth Fleet to the Valor system. Your mission is to render aid and engage hostile forces. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Show them what humans can do. Park's expression never changed, but something flickered in his eyes. Pride, maybe. Or purpose, finally found. Understood, Fleet Admiral. The Fourth Fleet will not fail. I know you won't. Godspeed, Jericho. The transmission ended. In the war room, the Council stood in silence, watching the holographic display update. 280 ships began moving in the Mars orbital yards, their quantum drives powering up. Dr. Okoye spoke into the quiet. What have we just done? Admiral Ruiz smiled sadly. We have announced to the galaxy that humanity is no longer hiding. We have declared that some things are worth fighting for, even for strangers. We have chosen to be the help that we once prayed would come. And if we fail, Volkov asked, then we fail trying. That has to count for something. In orbit around Mars, the Fourth Fleet finished its preparations. Admiral Park stood on his bridge, looking at his crew. They were the best humanity had produced, enhanced, and trained, carrying weapons that could shatter moons. But they also carried something the crystalline collective could never understand. They carried hope. All ships report ready, sir, his executive officer announced. Park nodded. Open fleet-wide channel. 280 ships listened as their admiral spoke. Today, we end our isolation. Today, we answer a call that was not meant for us. I cannot tell you if this is right, but I can tell you this. Somewhere in the darkness, people are dying who do not deserve to die. And we have the power to stand between them and oblivion. That is enough. That has to be enough. He paused. All ships, execute jump on my mark. Let's show the galaxy what humanity stands for. Mark. Reality bent. Space folded. 280 human warships vanished in a flash of quantum light, carrying with them the hopes of two civilizations. And the war room beneath Geneva fell silent, waiting to learn if they had just saved the galaxy or doomed it. What do you think humanity's next chapter will be? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more tales from across the galaxy. Thanks for watching. The Valor homeworld of Visara hung in space like a jewel carved from hope itself. Its 3 moons traced silver paths across skies that had never known war. For 8,000 years, the Valor had built a civilization on the foundation of beauty, believing that the universe would respond to kindness with kindness. They were about to learn just how wrong they could be. In the capital city of Lumine, Elder Physician Torn Vale watched from the Grand Archive as evacuation ships struggled into orbit. His forearms moved in patterns of distress, a silent language for when words failed. Around him, younger Valar worked frantically to save their culture. Art, music, the recorded thoughts of their greatest minds. They knew what was coming. The outer colonies had already gone silent, swallowed by an enemy known as the Crystalline Collective. A young archivist named Shay rushed to his side, her bioluminescent skin flickering with fear. "Elder Torin," she said, "the defense platforms report unknown vessels approaching." Not the Collective. Something else. Torin felt his heart skip in unison. "Show me." A holographic display materialized, showing sensor readings that made no sense. Ships were emerging from quantum space, dozens of them. They were dark, angular, radiating a raw power that made Valar technology look like children's toys. Before anyone could guess their intent, every communication system in Lumini activated. A voice spoke in perfectly translated Valar, its tone carrying a weight that transcended language. "Valar people, this is Admiral Jericho Park of the Human Fourth Fleet. We received your distress call. We are here to help. Please clear your orbital space. We are engaging hostile forces in 3 minutes." Silence fell across the archive. Humans, a species from myths, the Deathworld inhabitants who had vanished from galactic affairs a century ago. The legends whispered by deep space traders. They were supposed to stay hidden. They came, Shay breathed. They actually came. Aboard the flagship Indomitable, Admiral Park watched the Crystalline Collective fleet materialize on his tactical display. 47 massive vessels, each a mountain of living crystal and consumed consciousness, bearing down on the Sara. Beautiful, in a way, and terrifying in every other. Target acquisition complete. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Nora Reeves, reported, her neural implants glowing. All fleet elements report ready. Park studied the enemy formation. The collective ships moved as one, a single mind controlling dozens of bodies. Traditional military tactics would be useless. "Deploy the Lancer squadrons," he ordered. "I want them running interference on the collective sensor arrays. Whatever passes for their eyes, we blind them first. Carrier groups 3 and 5 establish a defensive position around the Sara. Nothing gets through to that planet. Nothing." His executive officer, Commander Hideo Tanaka, spoke carefully. "Sir, we are outnumbered." Standard doctrine would suggest a more cautious approach. Park smiled, but it wasn't a kind expression. "Hideo, there are 14 billion people on that planet. Caution means they die. Aggression gives them a chance." He opened the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is actual. Today, we write a new chapter in human history. Not as conquerors, but as guardians. The collective thinks consciousness is something to be harvested. We are going to teach them that some souls burn too bright to be extinguished." He paused. "Light them up." 280 human warships opened fire. The void erupted in a violence the Valar had never imagined. Humanity's weapons were not elegant. They were brutally efficient. Plasma lances hotter than a star's core punched through crystalline hulls. Quantum missiles phased through shields that had stopped a dozen other species. Relativistic kill vehicles, simple metal slugs moving at near light speed shattered structures that had survived meteor impacts. But the collective fired back, their energy beams disassembling matter at the molecular level. 3 human destroyers vanished in the first exchange, their crews gone in flashes of light. On the Sara, Torin watched the battle through his sensors, his 4 hearts pounding. The humans fought with a ferocity that terrified him. Their ships moved in perfect coordination, sacrificing themselves to protect others without hesitation. When a collective vessel broke through toward the planet, 5 human frigates intercepted it, ramming their own ships into its structure until both enemy and humans were just debris. "Why?" Shay whispered beside him. "Why would they die for us?" They don't even know us." Torin had no answer. But watching the humans fight, watching them bleed and burn and refuse to yield, he understood something profound. These were not the cold warriors of legend. These were people who had looked at suffering and chosen to stop it, no matter the cost. In the heart of the battle, Admiral Park calmly directed his forces like a conductor guiding an orchestra of destruction. Reeves redirect fire from Carrier Group 5 to support the Lancers. They're taking heavy casualties, but they're doing their job. The collective's coordination is degrading. "Sir, we've lost 18% of our fleet strength," Tanaka reported, his voice tight. "And they've lost 31%, Park countered. "We're winning." He saw the collective trying to flank them, learning their patterns. "Signal all ships. Execute Protocol Serpent." The human fleet suddenly broke formation, scattering in what looked like a panicked retreat. The collective surged forward, sensing victory. And then the trap closed. Human ships reversed course, catching the enemy in a devastating crossfire. The largest collective vessel, a 3-kilometer monstrosity, found itself surrounded by 30 warships, firing in perfect sync. The crystalline structure held for almost 5 seconds. Then it shattered, the consciousness within screaming across frequencies that made human sensors howl. The remaining collective vessels paused, and in that moment of hesitation, Admiral Park saw his chance. All carriers, launch everything. Fighters, bombers, boarding pods. Swarm them. Don't let them think. Don't let them regroup. Drown them in chaos. Thousands of small craft poured from the human carriers like angry insects. They weren't just trying to destroy the enemy anymore. They were trying to terrify a Gestalt intelligence, to make it feel something it had never felt before. Fear. And it worked. The collective fleet broke. Some vessels tried to jump away. Others retreated. The humans pursued without mercy, their smaller craft harrying the giants, never letting them rest. On the Sara, Torin and Shay watched as the last collective ship limped away into quantum space, pursued by human destroyers. The sky above their world, which had been filled with fire and death, slowly cleared. Admiral Park's face appeared on their screens once more. He looked exhausted, but his eyes held a deep satisfaction. "Vaylor people, the immediate threat has passed. We are establishing a defensive perimeter. Medical ships are en route. You are safe now." Torin found his voice, speaking for all his people. "Admiral Park, you have given us a gift we can never repay. You lost hundreds of your people for strangers. Why? Help us understand why you came." Park was quiet for a moment. "Because we heard you crying out in the darkness. Because we had the power to help and chose not to look away. Because a long time ago, my people learned what it means to be helpless, and we swore that when we had strength, we would use it to protect those who could not protect themselves." He smiled, and it transformed his tired face. "You asked why we came, Elder Torin? The answer is simple. Because it was the right thing to do. Sometimes that reason is enough." As human ships began landing on the Sara, carrying supplies, engineers, and hope, the Vaylor people emerged to greet the warriors who had saved them. In that moment, the galaxy changed. Humanity was no longer hidden. They had announced their return, not with threats or demands, but with sacrifice and courage. The galaxy was vast and dark and full of dangers. But now it held something new. It held hope that when darkness came, someone might answer. Humanity had stepped into the light, not as conquerors, but as guardians. And it was a very good beginning. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next journey into the cosmos. See you next time.